Okay, we're on. We are on, and I'm coming over to you, Liz. There you are. Just turn a little bit to get the light on your face. No, just look that way a bit. That's it. There. Just now look at the camera. Half and half. There, go.
No problem.
Okay, Lindsay
Stuvik. Yes.
Over to you.
All right. Thank you all for having me out today. I'm excited. This is the first meeting, so I really appreciate you inviting me. I am the Water Efficiency Manager at Molten Miguel Water District. I am not a horticulturalist, but I have been in water for the last 10 years. We run a lot of programs at Molten Miguel, so if you're a resident in our service area, I hope you find this helpful because I'd like to get you in touch with all of our resources and some of our programs and just let you know what we've been up to for the last, maybe about 2 or 3 years. We've got some really great programs that we've brought out to our residents. So just let me know when you're ready and then I'll go to the first slide. I'll just keep talking. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about water efficiency, but I'm also going to talk a little bit about sustainable landscaping, because that's been a big initiative of the district over the last 5 to 6 years. And we've come out with a Naturescape program. And was anybody able to go to the Naturescape garden tour? I know Jane was there. I met her on the tour. We just had our first ever Naturescape garden tour. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that is in a little bit. But y'all are invited out next year to come and take a look at what we've been up to. So just a little bit about Molten Miguel. How many of you are residents of our service area? Oh, great, wonderful, okay. So we provide water, wastewater, recycled water services to about 6 cities in South Orange County. So that's Mesa Viejo, Laguna Miguel, Laguna Hills, parts of Dana Point, parts of San Juan Capistrano, and Mission Viejo. We have a water budget-based rate structure, which are you guys familiar with your water budget-based rate structure? If not, we'll go through it a little bit because you should be, and I'll make sure that if you have any questions, I try to answer them. We also we are AAA rated by Fitch and Standard & Poor's, which is very unusual. We take a huge emphasis on financial planning. We want to make sure that we get the lowest interest rates possible, so if we need to go out and get a bond, or if we need to do anything of that, like for our capital infrastructure, we have very strong financial planning. So we're great in that respect. We have 7 board members, about 152 employees. Our population that we serve is about 172,000. About 85% of the meters that we serve are residential. So we're largely residential service area. And we have replaced 5.3 million square feet of turf. And yeah, it's a very large number for the size of our service area. It's probably one of the highest per capita. So, and that's one of the reasons that we know our residents really like turf removal. You can drive around our service area and see a lot more variation than what you see in a lot of neighborhoods, which is really great.
Could you repeat that number? I didn't quite catch it.
5.3 million.
5.3 million?
Square feet of turf. Yeah.
It's on the
Yeah.
Oh, it's on the board?
Yeah, it's up there. Yeah, and that,
Oh,
that
let
is...
me get that then.
Okay. Or you can just keep it on there if you want.
Yeah, just point that out. See that? You pointed to your finger with your finger.
Yeah. So
There we are.
5.3 million square feet of turf.
I can't believe it.
Commercial and residential. So, I want to tell you just a little bit about our water supply, because our water supply is what drives a lot of our programming. If we lived in an area where we had a big aquifer underneath us and we could pump water out of the ground cheaply, a lot of our programs that we do wouldn't be cost effective. It would just be cheaper to pump it out of the ground than it would be to actually pay somebody to take out their turf. And so one of the reasons that I keep this slide in here is so that everybody's aware of where their water comes from. So we, unlike northern and central Orange County, do not have an aquifer that we can easily just pump out of. We also don't have a surface water that we can easily pull water out of, and so we have to import 100% of our water. So our water, about 55% of our water comes from the Colorado River. Sorry. About 55% of our water comes from the Colorado River on average, and about 45% of it comes from the State Water Project. And that is up at the Delta near the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers. Now, interestingly enough, in times where a very wet year like this year, we import all of our water through Metropolitan Water District. You can see here's where the actual Colorado River aqueduct comes in, and then that yellow area is about the Metropolitan Water District service area. And they're actually able to engineer their systems such that in dry years we can pull most of our water from the Colorado River. And then in years when it's really wet, such as this year, we can pull 100% of our water from the state water project. And that's because that system is set up to convey water very efficiently and very reliably. But for that kind of reliability, we pay a premium. And so where some agencies can pull water out of the ground at $300 an acre foot, we pay about $1,000 an acre foot to import. And that's just because that's the supply that's available to us. But
That aqueduct is shared with other states.
which one?
State water.
The Colorado River? Yes, it is. Yes. So the Colorado River actually comes from the Colorado River Basin. There are 7 states and 2 countries that pull water from the Colorado River. But California has the most senior rights, and we also take the largest amount from the river. And not the majority of it, a small fraction of it actually goes to urban use. The majority of Colorado River water that comes into California actually goes to the irrigation districts that are just located near the border. But yes, we do import about half of our water supply from there. We import treated water at the Deemer plant, and then the district, just to make sure that we're even more reliable, went into a partnership with some of our local water agencies and created the Baker treatment plant. So we actually have 2 water treatment plants just to create some redundancy in our supply. So if one goes out, we have a backup. The district has also been serving recycled water for 50 years. About 25% of our needs are met with recycled water, and we also, since I was mentioning earlier, we do have a high price for water. We do try to do our best to make sure that water is used efficiently in our service area, because we like to say the cheapest drop of water is the one that you don't have to buy. So if you don't have to buy another $1,000 acre foot of water, you shouldn't. So we try to make sure that we use water efficiently at all times.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah.
Are we drinking recycled water if I have a glass of water from the tap?
You are not drinking recycled water. Recycled water will be served in purple pipes.
Oh, I see
Yeah.
that.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, and all water.
But
In
just
the
for-
geologic time scale, it's recycled. Yeah.
But I thought that some of the water was, we had switched over to a different...
So in central and north Orange counties, they have what's called the GWRS. It's the groundwater treatment facility that basically takes recycled water and cleans it to an extremely high level. Then they take that water, and it's so pure they actually have to inject minerals back into it because they've stripped so much out of it. They actually do an injection into the ground with that water because we have saltwater intrusion that comes in from the ocean. So they use it to make a barrier. That water then goes back into the groundwater where it has some residency time, and then it gets pumped back out for use later. So it's got a whole cycle that it goes through. So it's never been directly put back into a pipe. In fact, there's no legislation yet in California that would enable us to do that, but that is actually in the process. So, but yes, but that's occurring in the north and central parts of the county, but not our area.
So just following that question up, are you saying the water out of the tap, has it been drunk before it came from heaven?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's gone into the Colorado River, and then it's coming from the northern part of California. So whatever the source water is, it could be it could be precipitation, it could be whatever kind of discharges are
But how many
upstream.
people have drunk it before we drink it?
Since the beginning of time. I mean, how far back
Oh
you want to go?
how many times has it been drunken?
Our
No.
potable water, nothing. I mean, it's
Oh,
gone
really?
from a treatment plant directly into a delivery system, which goes
Why
to your
I'm pushing this question, we used to live in London, and we were told the water we drink out of the tap has been drunk
10 times.
3 times before we drink it.
Well, I mean, if you want to look at it in that it's being drunk upstream, and then it's going into a wastewater treatment stream where
Yeah.
it's cleaned and it's deposited back into usually a surface water or groundwater.
Yeah.
Then later, I mean, after some time, it gets pumped back out and then reused, and then the same process repeats.
It's
And-
unavoidable that it's been drunken before.
Correct. Right. But I mean, in terms of from the point that it's been cleaned and then delivered
Oh,
to your
yes,
home,
I know.
no.
Is
Yes.
it on holiday?
Yeah. So it is clean by the time it gets there.
Thank
So
you.
you're welcome. So benefits of water efficiency. First of all, it saves water and money. Remember I said the cheapest unit is the one that you don't have to buy. But it also reduces runoff and it can help avoid property damage. Anybody here on a HOA board or ever been on a landscape committee? Okay, do you recognize the stucco issues over here and the cracked asphalt? Costs a lot of water to re-slurry asphalt, and so by keeping water from running off of your property, you can also help avoid property damage. But in the larger sense, you can also help improve the quality of our local creeks and beaches, because if we don't have water running off the property, picking up pollutants on its way to the storm drain, all of that water is not treated. It actually goes directly to our creeks and to our beaches. And so that's just something to keep in mind, that if we are overwatering, that's where that water ends up. So if we also reduce our consumption to an efficient level, we're not asking folks to stop using water, we're just asking them to maintain an efficient level of use. So our assistant general manager likes to say it's not about using less, it's about wasting less. So we can also delay investment in infrastructure and storage. Those are expensive things. If we need to go out and get new sources of supply because we're using water inefficiently, that's going to cost money, and that'll translate to higher rates. But if we can maintain an efficient use within our service area, we can keep our rates low. So some of the ways that our district tries to keep use efficient and help manage demands is we do a ton of water efficiency rebates and programs. As I mentioned earlier, we've taken out 5.3 million square feet of turf, and that's growing because we continue to offer that program at $3 per square foot. It's for residents and for commercial. We do a lot of marketing and targeted messaging. So if you've been over budget, you may have received one of our emails, or maybe one of our postcards letting you know to check for leaks, or maybe you're overwatering. And just to help folks, here's some of our resources. Check out our website. We've done a lot of work on the website to make sure that we can provide you with that information. We have a water shortage contingency plan. What that means, it's basically for drought planning. So we want to make sure that our communities are prepared for drought, and so if there's ever a need to reduce it, or a catastrophic issue where we are out of water, we know what we need to do because we had it all planned. And then finally, we offer a lot of education programs. We have workshops that we offer, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we have irrigation workshops, which my team actually presents, and they've just revamped them. Interactive and really fun. And then we also have a landscape workshop, which is like the 3-hour version of what I'm going to tell you today. I'm going to try to keep mine short. And we have a really great presenter. So a little bit about water budget-based rate structure. I can't go with, I've got a captive audience, so I got to talk about it a little bit before we get to the sustainable landscaping. It is really the most effective tool that the district has to make sure that we keep demands efficient. It basically provides each of our customers with a customized budget on a monthly schedule. And those are based off of your particular factors. So how many people are in your home, the area of square footage that you need to irrigate. And if you find that you're starting to go over, I would suggest using it as a tool, because there could be something wrong in the home. Maybe you're overwatering, maybe your toilet's leaking. We run into that a lot. And then our district also provides free home savings surveys. So if you find that your bill is starting to get higher and higher, give us a call. We'll come out for free and take a look at your landscape, run your irrigation stations, make sure that there's not a geyser going off at 2 in the morning, which can happen. But yeah, really use it as a tool, because it is going to tell you, hey, something's unusual here. Also, like I said, it could be used as an indicator of leaks, and basically just to help you stay efficient. We introduced our budget-based rate structure in 2011, and 2 years following that, we saw that we reduced our consumption by 4,000 acre-feet a year, which is a lot, because each acre-foot is $1,000. So imagine, suddenly we've reduced our demand for water by $4 million annually. And so that's money that doesn't have to get passed, or costs that don't have to get passed on to our ratepayers. And so for us, it's been a great tool to not only help customers stay efficient, but also keep rates low. So here's a little bit about your indoor budget. You'll find it's composed of 2 parts. There's an indoor budget and an outdoor part. So your indoor budget is based on the number of people in your household. It's also going to be based on a certain factor, so 55 gallons per person per day. And then basically by the number of days in your billing cycle, and that'll give you what your indoor budget is. And if anybody wants a copy of this, I can send it out, so that we don't have to try to take a look at it before that. That 748 at the end, that's just something that we use to turn gallons into your billing units. So when you get it, it's a lot smaller. It's not going to say 6,000. It's going to say something a lot smaller.
Question.
Sure.
How do you determine how many people are living in a property?
We require that the customer reports it. We're not going to ask customers. We ask that you tell us, and it is up to you to tell us the number of people. And I'll tell you why it's important. Because if you say that you've got 4 people in your home, but you really have about 7, we're gonna be under budgeting you and you'll find that you'll go over budget. And so that's why it's important to make sure that you've got an accurate number. Also, you don't want to over-report, because we've had some people do this in the past. I think if they over-report, they're going to get a higher budget, and they'll be able to use the cheapest level of water. But keep in mind that we bill on a per-person basis for wastewater. So if you say you have 7 people, it's on the other side, you're going to pay per person. So really what we're just asking is that you just provide an accurate number. If you've got 4 people in the home, let us know, and we'll make sure we give you the right amount of water. We don't require documentation like that says, that you've got a mail or something like that. Just let us know, and that's all you need. No documentation required.
How does a new owner receive that information?
New owners, we are putting together a welcome packet.
What?
A welcome packet. So it'll give them this information. Plus, we've got a whole website dedicated to how this works. And if you call any of our customer service people or water efficiency lines, you can get a whole rundown of how the budget works and make sure that we can get you updated.
But you have a packet, and who do you give the packet to? Sales
To
agent?
the new homeowners. No, not to the sales agents. No. This would go anytime somebody starts an account. So you would have to call us, start your water account, which is done on a regular basis. So the outdoor budget is actually a little bit more complicated, but not really. All of these numbers stay the same with the exception of ET. So we'll talk a little bit about that. As gardening folks, you probably want to know about ET, and I'll go into that a little bit more. But your outdoor budget is based on your irrigable area. So if you've got 10,000 square feet that you need to irrigate versus 2,000 square feet, you're going to have a larger budget because that's what you need to make sure that your plants get watered effectively. And that's one of the reasons that I really like the water budget-based rate structure. It's based on what you need. We don't just tell you everybody gets 10, or 10 units a month, even if you've got 1,000 and you've got 10,000. We make sure that it's customized to how much you need. Then it's based on monthly evapotranspiration. So that's just a term that basically means evaporation plus plant transpiration, called plant sweat, because plants actually lose water throughout the year through their leaves. And different types of plants will lose it at different rates, but for the most part, we base this on like a cool weather turf. And then the rest are just conversion factors to get to your billing units. If I can leave you today so you can understand this in just a simple way, the thing that drives the variation in your budget is the ET. And I'll show you how. So throughout the year, evapotranspiration changes across the seasons. So who knows, if you can just tell, it's warmer in the summer, we have more evaporation in the summer. And then in the cooler months, like today, there's a lot of cloud cover. Over here, we actually benefit quite a bit from a marine layer, so we don't have nearly as much evaporation that occurs from about December to May. But as the spring starts to heat up, you can see that a plant water demand is actually going to increase, and by the summer, it's going to peak. And that's going to be driven basically by ET. It's based on solar radiation, which is just the amount of sunlight that you're going to get that day. Air temperature, humidity, and wind. And if I could tell you one thing, it is heavily weighted towards the amount of sunshine that we get. And so as you can see, in the winter, we only have about 8 hours to 10 hours of sunshine a day. And as you get more towards the center of the year, in the summer, you're going to get 14 hours a day, and then it quickly drops off in the fall. Even though it could be about 83 degrees outside on Thanksgiving. I know we've all been sitting outside on Thanksgiving and it's sweaty and hot. But it's going to get dark by 5 o'clock or 5:30. And so those plants get a good 12 to 13 hours of time to actually recover and not lose as much transpiration. And so we tend to find that most of our customers go over budget in the fall because they're still irrigating like it's summertime, and it's not. And so, yes?
Could you tell us what the ratio is between the peak and, say, winter?
Yeah.
It looks about 20 to 1, but...
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll go into it a little bit more. So,
okay.
yeah. And so the ET is not just going to vary by the seasons. It's going to vary about across the actual geographic area where you live. So, you know how rain is measured in inches? We also measure ET in inches. So, rain is just the amount of water that you get in inches. ET is the amount of water that you lose in inches. So think of it that way. By the coast, you'll lose about 42 inches a year. And then as you start to move up and up and up to the interior reaches where it's warmer and drier, you'll lose about 53 inches a year. That's a pretty big swing. And that's just in our small service area. But there's a lot of microclimates just in this area because you've got this coastal sage scrub area and it goes further inland, it gets warmer and drier. And so what I've got here, just to illustrate how this is going to affect people in different ways, just in our small service area, as you can see, the black line is how seasonally how ET is going to work. Up here is a summertime, down here is a winter, summertime, a winter, but check this out. This is a range across our geographic service area in just one summer. This is probably in Dana Point. They're probably losing about 2.5 inches in the summer. But in here, 7 inches, all the way up by Mission Viejo, where we've got warmer climates and it's drier and windier. So as you can see, it's got quite a range. And that's actually how that system right there is what we use to create our budgets that go on the bills.
When you say 2.5 inches or something like that, is that per year or per
Just
day?
that, just in that month alone.
Oh, per
So
month.
you're losing water all the time. And throughout the month, what we do is we take all the daily ET and we add it up, and that's your billing, or what we put on your bill, and I'll show you how that
And ET stands for
transpiration. Correct. Yeah, evaporation.
It's perspiring.
Yeah, exactly. We call it plant sweat, and then just regular old evaporation, which increases in the summer. I promise we're almost out of the technical stuff and we'll get to the fun gardening stuff soon. But I did want to give you guys kind of the background of like where the district is coming from. We know that sustainable landscaping is going to help make our resources more reliable. And there's a lot of science behind the way that we build. It's not an arbitrary number. It's very customized to all of our customers. So I try, when I get the opportunity to talk about it, I try to let you guys know how your building is going to work.
How does that compare to what the evaporation rate is for a pool?
The evaporation rate for a pool is just regular evaporation. There's no transpiration included in it. So like that's probably considered a true evaporation because it's just water that's just leaving the surface and going into the clouds essentially. If you add on top of that what the plant needs, and it's going to be based on like I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this, but basically it's missing the plant transpiration part.
So an area that's covered with plants has a lower evaporation rate than just a surface area of water? No.
Well, it depends because there's a lot more water there. There's a lot more water to be lost. If you look over into like a vegetated area, some of that water is not going to be on the surface. A lot of it's going to be underground. It's going to be used by plant roots. And so there's some different dynamics going on because the soil can hold on to moisture. Like the pool has no roots. It has nothing to retain moisture, no organic matter. It just loses it to the environment. And so there's a different dynamic. Yes.
Following up that question, could you say what is the ratio between the evaporation from the swimming pool compared to the evapotranspiration from grass?
No, I can't. Just because I don't know what the evaporative loss is. It's a lot of the ET is based on plants. It's based on like a cold weather turf. And that's one of the highest water loving plants, and that's why we try to bill you on something that's got a lot more water needs than maybe like a drought tolerant plant.
I've heard it said that a lawn or grass is almost bad as a swimming pool, almost as thirsty or blowing it out as a swimming pool.
I don't know. I have to see the data on
I thought
it.
it was remarkable, but that's what I heard.
Well, I'm almost done with the sciencey technical stuff. Let me just tell you, when I was talking about how it's going to vary throughout the region, this is just an example of about 1,000 square feet of turf, or 1,000 square feet of landscape. That's how it's going to translate to your budget. And if you want to know how you're being billed today and what your budget is composed of, take a look on your bill. It'll say, here's your water budget period, 13 business units, your billed actual usage is 10, number of people in your home, and then the amount of square footage that that's going to be put into your budget. So just know it's on every bill. So if you look at it and go, hey, we don't have 4 people living at home anymore, the kids moved out or whatever, just make sure you give us a call and we'll change it. Because our goal is to make sure that it's accurate. So getting into the plant stuff. We have a 0.7 plant factor built into our budget. But I wanted to explain a little bit more about what plants are and what a plant factor is when it comes to water needs. So one of the things that we find with drought-tolerant plants is there's a range of them. You know, you can have a drought-tolerant plant that is heat-tolerant, but maybe the source of where that plant comes from gets monsoonal rains in July. So like you were saying, you lived in the desert. Arizona Their peak precipitation month is July because they get monsoons. We don't get any rain in July. And so a plant that's evolved to expect monsoonal rain for a month and a half in the dead of the summer is probably not going to do so well here unless it has some supplemental water. And so there's kind of a misconception. We are not necessarily a desert. We're a Mediterranean climate. And the further you get into the interior, then you'll get into more of the desert reaches. But from where you live in this coastal sage scrub habitat, it is a Mediterranean climate with different water needs. So just to talk a little bit about that, what I've got here, remember I was showing you those ET lines, and that's one of the reasons I led in with that. These are the seasonal plant water requirements. What you'll see in the yellow is a native plant. Notice not a lot of rain in the summer, so it doesn't have nearly as much water requirements in the summer. Whereas this is a warm weather turf. If I were to put a cold weather turf on there, I'd actually have to increase the scale up to 7 inches because it's going to need about 7 inches in July of rain. How much rain do we get a year?
16?
If we're lucky. We got 16 and a half this year, and this is one of the
If we're lucky.
most precipitous year. Yeah, exactly. We normally get about 11 inches of rain a year. And if you've got a cold weather turf that needs 7 inches of rain in July, you've shot 2/3 of your budget in 1 month. Yes, ma'am.
Can you give some examples of warm versus cool turfs?
Yeah, so Bermuda grass is typically a warm weather turf. There's some like a Kentucky bluegrass. There's lots of different types of turfs that would be considered one or the other. Some of them are hybridized now, and they've actually had some that are made in the lab. Like we have a buffalo grass that's got a pretty low water need, and it would be considered a warm weather turf. But if you're interested, it's a simple Google search away. Some good places to check are UC Davis. They do a lot of research on plant water needs. But one of the reasons I bring this up is so that way you can see just what the water needs are seasonally throughout the year. And then I'll also add in our precipitation schedule. So this is the precipitation locally for the last 5 years, which includes 3 of the driest years on record in California. And so you can see that even our native plants aren't getting normally the amount of water that they would get. We only had 3.5 inches of rain last year, and that's really brought our average down. 2 years ago, we had about 4.5 inches of rain. And so even though they've gotten used to our climate is changing, and so we're going to see that it's going to need some water or some additional water. I've done a comparison of the supplemental water needs. So what you see in the blue, that's the amount of supplemental water that plants are going to need. Right here is a warm season turf, and that bottom line in green is our precipitation. So that's how much supplemental water will be needed to maintain even a warm weather turf for that year. In total, what you'll find is we're going to get about 11 inches a year of rain, and it'll need close to about 40 inches of rain total to make sure that it's operating effectively. For our drought-tolerant plants, like our cosmos, our euryopes, regular hibiscus, I would add even some desert plants in there, like what we were talking about with the monsoonal rains. Even they have about 25 to 30 inches of rain required a year, so that's double what we would normally get. And then over here, we've got California natives and the supplemental water that they'll need with a Cleveland sage, a California fuchsia, and like woolly blue curls. Those are just some examples. And so here's what I was mentioning earlier. There's about 5 Mediterranean climates across the world. They occur between the 30th and 45th parallels, both in the northern and the southern hemisphere. California is one of them. It is also one of the driest, if not the driest. We've got a comparison here of just precipitation in Mediterranean climates. So if you've got an Australian plant at home, like a kangaroo paw, although they are also a summer dry Mediterranean climate, that's what characterizes all those locations. We are summer dry. The month that receives the most precipitation globally is July, but not in these 5 locations. And so we need a special type of plant. So what I've done up here is I've shown about the Tuscan Irvine area, Greece, which is in the European Mediterranean, Perth, Australia, South Africa, and Chile. As you can see, it all dips down in the summer and the spring. We get very little rainfall. But if you look at that kangaroo paw, which is the orange in Australia, they get 25 inches of rain a year, not 11. And so even that plant's going to need more water than what you think it would to have kind of an optimal look. Yes?
I can confirm that number because we used to live in Perth, Australia. So we made a good comparison with the rain in Perth compared with the rain in Lagoon and Niguel.
Yep.
And
We get
it
much
doesn't-
less.
Yes, and there's a lot of rain in Perth in winter.
Yes.
Yeah, it comes down in buckets.
Yes. I worked in Melbourne and